Yo, what's up? This is the Fight Block, back to the solo format. Gonna get my buddy Coop to do a solo predictions also, but here to get my UFC on Fox 5 predictions live this Saturday on Fox. Free fights, there's gonna be 4 of them. One of the better Fox cards just overall that they've, in terms of fights, good matchups, and get a title fight. So should be a good night of fights. I'm looking forward to it. Starting off with the first fight, Mike Swick taking on Matt Brown. This is going to be a scrap fight. Both fighters got, for the most part, entertaining styles. Mike Swick has been in a few boring fights, but, he's coming off of a long injury, but had an impressive knockout win over DeMarcus Johnson in his last fight. Although the first round, he took a little bit of a beating, so it was kind of a comeback fight, but very highlight reel quality knockout. I'm sure we'll see a lot of replays of it going into the fight. Taking on Matt Brown, who's a scrapper, just a well-rounded fighter. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's never been finished and knocked out in his career, I should say. He's had several submission losses, but never been TKO'd or knocked out. So tough to finish. And Mike Swick style, very quick striker, looks for the knockout, and it's going to be tough to finish Matt Brown. Matt Brown's the same sort of style, looking for the knockout. But yeah, since Matt Brown is, both guys coming from the Ultimate Fighter. Mike Swick being season 1, Matt Brown not sure which, but both are Ultimate Fighter alums. And just all around a good fight to open the card. But, I think Swick came out and said that this fight's going to end early and fast. And, definitely could happen that way. Both guys come out swinging, someone gets caught. I think Swick might be more susceptible to the knockout, although he hasn't been knocked out since his loss to Chris Lieben before he even got into the UFC. That was back in WEC. So Swick also tough to knock out. But I see his fight just being a scrap. I think it's going to go to the judges, and I'm going to take Mike Swick on this one. I think he might be able to throw in some wrestling in there, put Matt Brown on his back a couple times, avoid submissions, but all around going to be a good scrap to start the card, I think. So, but I'm taking Mike Swick to win this one by decision. Moving on to the second fight on the card, we got, let me see if we can pull it up here, BJ Penn coming out of retirement taking on Rory MacDonald, and this is a great matchup. It's a guy with a legendary status, a legacy behind him, taking on a young up and coming talent. And Rory MacDonald is one of those guys that they're talking about as being the youngsters coming up that are really training every facet of mixed martial arts. They're not the old guys where they been doing Muay Thai their whole life, and now they're just putting in jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Rory MacDonald is one of those guys that's been training MMA, and it shows. He's a very well-rounded fighter, strong wrestler, quality striking, and just has a ton of potential, especially for being as young as he is. But taking on a legend in BJ Penn, and BJ Penn retired after his loss to Nate Diaz last year, and kind of a surprising return from BJ. But I guess he's got the itch to fight again, and so he's back. And it's always good to have BJ back. He's a fun fighter, entertaining, puts on a show, but the only real question mark when it comes to BJ Penn is always his cardio, and this is a long layoff, over a year, and you always got to just throw out that question, which BJ Penn is really going to show up. He seems to be motivated. He seems to, like I said, have that itch to come back and fight, and BJ's strength's always been his boxing. He's a master, I would say, almost at jiu-jitsu, just his flexibility, and although he hasn't really submitted a whole lot of people as of late, he's tough to submit, and just his ground game is sick. So great on the ground, and but if he gets put on his back, that's his weakness. We saw that in his fight against GSP, wrestled him, put him on his back, and wasn't really able to do a lot. He tries to utilize the rubber guard a lot, but it just hasn't been all that effective. But yeah, Rory MacDonald definitely has the wrestling capability of putting BJ on his back. I think for the most part, this fight, they'll come out, they'll stand, they'll trade, and I think Rory will test his boxing and see how it stands with BJ. But BJ's got quality takedown defense. Some fights, it's almost impossible to take him down. But other fights, like in this fight against GSP, but we all know how high level of a wrestler GSP is. But also in his Fitch fight, Fitch took him down several times. His takedown defense has been not so great in some of his other fights. So sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. He's got incredible balance, especially when he's when someone's going for the single and he's on one leg. He's tough to take down. But I think Rory definitely has the ability to take BJ down, put him on his back, and just mix it up. And this is a tough fight for BJ. Definitely ring rust can be a factor. I think it will be in this fight, and I don't see depending on what condition BJ comes in, I could see Rory getting a late TKO finish should BJ gas. But I see this one again going to the judges, with Rory MacDonald pulling out a decision victory over the returning BJ Penn. Whether or not this is the last time we see Penn in the octagon, should he lose, who knows. But win or lose, he would definitely be given another fight. And we'll just see what kind of BJ shows up. So I'm excited to see that. But taking Rory MacDonald, definitely the future of the welterweight division, and taking him by unanimous decision. Moving on to the co-main event. It's a light heavyweight matchup with championship implications. I believe the winner is the clear-cut number one until Dan Henderson takes on Machida, but that's not until later next year. But yeah, the winner of this fight is definitely would qualify as next in line for a title shot. Mauricio Shogun Rua takes on Alexander Gustafsson. He's another up-and-coming talent. Since his loss to Phil Davis, he lost by submission in that fight. He's won his last 5 fights. So with some impressive TKO finishes over Vladimir Mashchenko, Matt Hamill, a couple submission victories too, and just all around has looked really impressive. He's coming off a decision victory over Thiago Silva in his last fight. But he takes on a veteran, Mauricio Shogun Rua. He's been in there with the best. He's coming off a TKO finish over Brandon Vera. It was a tough, gritty fight. Brandon Vera actually had Shogun rocked a couple times in that fight. Really, put up more of a challenge than what most people expected from Vera, but ended up getting the TKO finish in the 4th round in that fight. But before that fight, Shogun's coming off, arguably. You could argue that he beat Dan Henderson, a very close fight. You could argue that the fight was a draw, but he's coming off of that fight, which is considered and arguably one of the greatest fights in mixed martial arts history. Went 5 rounds with Dan Henderson and lost a decision, but arguably won that fight and looked really good in that one. Although both in the Brandon Vera and Dan Henderson fight, Shogun has come out a little bit slow, and it's surprisingly, because Shogun's conditioning's always been a question with him. Surprisingly, he turned it up in the later rounds. So the Dan Henderson fight, we definitely saw Shogun take control in the later rounds, and then same in the Brandon Vera fight. And but this fight's only gonna be 3 rounds, and that means Shogun's got to come out early and not find himself fighting from behind, because he has been known to take a beating early. We saw that in John Jones fight. And same thing in the fight against Dan Henderson was almost finished and almost knocked out in that fight early. And Alexander Gustafsson, he's another prospect. Definitely his weakness would be his takedown defense and just wrestlers in general. We saw that in his Phil Davis fight, but when he gets the opportunity to stand and trade, he's a big light heavyweight. He throws some brutal kicks. I think for the most part this is going to be a stand-up battle, but if it were to go to the ground, I wouldn't be surprised if Gustafsson tries to grab a hold and just use his size to wrestle Shogun down to the ground. He does have some submission victories, and but Shogun's another guy. He's tough to finish. He's always around, or he's always game to brawl and take a beating. So this is gonna be a scrap, but I think someone's gonna get finished in this fight, and man, it's a tough one. I'm bouncing back and forth between this one. I mean, Shogun definitely has the advantage with experience. He's been in there with the best, and Gustafsson's looked good. He's a prospect. He's knocking people out left and right, and Shogun's tough to finish. Yeah, I'm borderline on this one, but I got to go with. I'll take Alexander Gustafsson to catch Shogun and swarm him. I don't really see there being like a one-punch knockout, but I could definitely see him catching Shogun and rocking him and then finishing him off with a TKO. I could very well see this fight going the other way too, with Shogun coming out utilizing leg kicks and really kind of chopping down on Gustafsson and vice versa, catching Gustafsson. So I mean, this fight really is it's a pick'em, it's a toss-up fight, but I'm going to take Alexander Gustafsson to win this fight by TKO, and I'll say the second round. I'll say he catches him with a head kick, rocks him, and then finishes it off with some strikes. So Gustafsson by TKO round 2. Going on to the main event, it's another great matchup. Ben Henderson defends his title against the surging Nate Diaz. Since dropping down from the welterweight division again and back into the light heavyweight division, he's on a 3-fight win streak with 2 really impressive victories. One over Donald Cerrone. That was a scrap, but really outstruck Cerrone surprisingly. And if I remember correctly, he had Cerrone pretty rocked in that fight too. So that was definitely an impressive win for Diaz, especially with how Cerrone's been performing since coming over to the UFC. He's definitely established himself as a top contender in the division. So that dominating win was quite impressive. It also got fight of the night. That was back at UFC 141 of last year in December. And then his last victory, really impressive too, over a tough fighter in Jim Miller, also considered one of the top lightweights in the division. Jim Miller, known for his submission and ground game, actually got submitted by Diaz. So Diaz under Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is just sick on the ground. It seemed like when he first came into the UFC, his style was take a beating and then submit the guy and surprise him. And caught several guys by submission. But his boxing is improving, so his striking is no joke. But Ben Henderson is just a well-rounded fighter. He's got wrestling, he's got quality striking. He's extremely difficult to submit. We've seen him in some deep guillotine chokes that look like they'd finish anybody, but Ben Henderson somehow finds a way to escape the submission holds. So very tough to submit, but also he seems to put himself in vulnerable and dangerous positions for submissions. So, and Diaz is no joke with his Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So, Henderson's got to be careful of putting himself in those risky positions, because it's only a matter of time before one of those gets put in deep enough and he goes to sleep. So I mean, Diaz definitely, if this fight goes to the ground, I see him. If Diaz is to win, I see him catching Henderson by submission. And definitely possible, but I'm gonna have to go with the champion on this one. Ben Henderson's looked really good, especially in his last 2 wins over Frankie Edgar, one for the title and then defending the title. Although very close fights, Frankie Edgar has established himself as one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, and Ben Henderson beating him twice was really impressive. And Ben Henderson, since coming over from the WEC, is undefeated in the UFC, and he's just looked really, really good. So I got to go with Ben Henderson. I say he, grinds out a decision, and he hasn't really shown really any power in his hands, and doesn't. I mean, he's all right on the ground. He's shown some submissions at times, good positioning, but he hasn't really submitted anyone either. So he's just an all-around, good fighter, and I got to take Ben Henderson to pull out a decision. Although, he's really got to be careful with Diaz and what kind of positions he puts himself in. He can't leave his neck out there, or Diaz can definitely sink in a deep guillotine choke and put him to sleep. So this is going to be a good fight, and but I got to take Ben Henderson, the champion, to defend his title. and win this by unanimous decision. All right, those are my UFC on Fox 5 predictions. Always changing the format here at the Fight Block, and I'm going to still keep up the conversations with my buddy, possibly do a recap and that kind of stuff, but he's also going to be coming on to the Fight Block and doing his own solo predictions also, so I think this format is a little bit easier to stay consistent. So took a couple weeks off to consider a couple things and just what to do, but we're going with the solo, so it's a little bit easier to week in, week out, put out a video and stuff, but also going to keep up the discussion stuff too. So yeah, just stay tuned, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter at fight_block. All the information is on the channel page. But yeah, enjoy the fights. They're free, and should be some good ones. I wish I would pick some more finishes, but I don't know. They're tough fights to pick this card, and can really go either way in all the fights. So good ones to watch. All right, that's all I got to say. Peace. I'm out of here.